Wake me up from this nightmare. Our team lost the game and it's not fair. Cause Matty Ice went off. Calvin really had 3 TDs. But at the end of the day, we couldn't stop Drew Brees. And all these injuries got me going insane. And I know most of the season remains, but all of these close games need to change because we should be undefeated. Who's stepping up on D because we need it? Rise up.
I think it's time that you bow down. Cause we about to rise up. You know them birds gon' fly when you see us.
Not a pretty game, man. Final score, Falcons 37, Aints 43. I'm going to break it down like the good, the bad, and then the ugly. So let's start with the good, man. Matt Ryan had a solid game. Nah, it was more than solid. Matt Ryan had a great game. He went 26 for 35, 374 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 of them to Calvin Ridley, 1 to Mohamed Sanu, 1 to Hoot. When he had time in the pocket, man, he lit him up, and that's to be expected. And that's the 2016, the MVP season Matt Ryan, like when he's spreading out the ball. So he targeted 8 different players, and that's when we're successful, when you can't just hone in on one person. Sometimes Julio has a big game, right? And they showed a stat during the game that like when Julio had over 100 yards, we're actually like 5 for 7 or something like that. And it's just because it's a team game. Like when all the coverage is dictating in, we need to go to Mohamed Sanu. We need to go to Calvin Ridley. We need to go to the backs out of the backfield, man. But so that's definitely a good. Speaking of Calvin Ridley, 3 touchdowns, man. He's the first Falcon to do that since like 2006. They said Algie Crumpler was the last one to do that. It's kind of bananas when you think about it, especially because Julio's had some big games for us. Julio, he's a monster when it comes to yards, man. They really try to bottle him up in the red zone, but it's just exciting to see that if they try to take Julio away, we've got a Hooper, we've got a Ridley, we've got a Sanu, we've got all of these other weapons that we can spread the ball to. And I don't know if it's just because he's a humble dude, but like Julio has always been not a stat guy. That's what he says. I'm not a stat guy. And I appreciate that so much, man, because it is an ultimate team game. He knows at the end of the day he wants to win. Julio Jones wants the Super Bowl. He's already talked about as one of the best. And he always shows up. He does his work, whether it's blocking for somebody else. It is what it is. But Calvin really had an amazing game, man. A whole different variety. So all 3 touchdowns. He had the one where it was that speed route, and he just catches the ball over his shoulder, takes it to the house. He kind of slows up a little bit, and somebody starts kind of catching him at the end, and he sees him coming and takes off. He had the one where he does a little stutter move along the sideline. Matty Ice just puts it exactly where it needs to be. And then the last one was the scramble drill where he was coming like by the back of the end zone, and that one was a close one. So he controlled the ball and 2 feet in, but 1, 2, 3. He got our first 3 touchdowns in a row, which was nuts. Yeah, man, it was a good game in terms of spreading it around to people. Good game in terms of getting things done through the air. Through the ground, however, we did not have too much of a good game. So both the running backs, Tevin Coleman, Ito Smith, they had plays usually in the passing game. I like Ito Smith, man, in the passing game. He's not that big of a guy, so he's not running people over, but he does make some shifty moves. He's no Devontae Freeman, but I feel like he's pretty solid out there so far. He's looked good. Tevin Coleman couldn't get the run game going like he did against Carolina. They just couldn't seem to hone in on all that stuff, man. And I know division games, they play us tough. The Aints coming off 2 real close games for them. 1 loss, both in their home stadium. This was their first road game. Our second home game of the season. But, yeah, so I said good, bad, and ugly, so more good. I think Deion Jones being out obviously was a big deal, so I wanted to see how Duke Riley was going to step into that role. Fellow LSU guy. He doesn't have a full season under his belt in terms of starting, so like being out there real time, not preseason, not practice, like real time, like those reps, they mean something. So he had the most tackles in the game, I believe. Duke Riley, he had 9 tackles, so he did lead the team. Brian Poole had 8. So that I was impressed by him, man. I was impressed by KZ stepping in. I saw him all over the field. Matt Bryant, Matt Bryant, man. I don't know what we're gonna do without that guy. If whenever he decides to retire, but he belongs. I know he's one of the best kickers in the league. I don't know where I know Morton Anderson, Hall of Famer, but Matt Bryant has been money for a long, long time. He's so consistent. In terms of the bad, man, defense, it was not a good night. It seemed like every time they got into the end zone, or every time they got into those goal situation right in the red zone, like they just found a way to make it work. We did have a few stops, and they had to settle for field goals, but the first drive, they take it right down our throats. Obviously, we know what happened in overtime. As soon as they won the coin toss, man, I was just like, That one play that kind of sticks out in my mind that they keep showing all over Instagram, all over social media is the slow spin move by Drew Brees, and Brian Poole was there, Robert Alford was there. Brian Poole kind of like, the angle he took kind of cut Robert Alford out of it. There's no way Drew Brees should have got in that end zone, man. It's 4th quarter. We had the lead by a touchdown at that point, 7 points up. Man. And then when it came down to, we had one more shot before overtime, there was a key block Tevin Coleman missed. And if he hadn't missed that block, gave Matt Ryan a little bit more time, Mohamed Sanu was right there for the catch, but pressure got to him, and it was an errant ball, so unfortunate. But the ugly, I already talked about the defense being the bad, missed opportunities. I guess jumping back into the good, it's kind of all over the place, man. The game just coming back to me. I'm glad Vic got a sack. I feel like he needed it. It came in it was a 3rd down opportunity too. So he's been close on a lot of them. I'm glad he at least got his one. Hopefully they keep coming in bunches, and hopefully the rest of the line contributes. I know we've been banged up on the line. So as we're getting our guys back, we get tacked back for the Bengals, we'll have that 1-2 punch, man. Because if you don't give these guys pressure, they're going to find time. Our DBs could be covering lights out, but eventually if you give somebody enough time, they're going to either scramble for yards, find a check down, or they're going to exploit whatever the breakdowns in coverage are over time. Because the DBs obviously are relying on that pressure to get to them, especially when you have a QB like Drew Brees. When it comes to the ugly, happened late in the game. I don't know if it was overtime. It might have been overtime or the 4th quarter, but Rico goes down, and you knew it was going to be another really bad injury, man. I don't know what is in the water at Flowery Branch or what is going on to our defense, our secondary, man. Another season-ending injury. So as of now, Ish is taking over the role for Kiki, and then KZ is moving back to Rico's spot. Dan Quinn says he feels comfortable with that. I guess what he's seen in training camp. Obviously, these dudes are not starters, but I do feel comfortable in the fact that both of them have spent a lot of time in our system. Ishmael, to me, he's like super underrated. I don't know if y'all remember, he was a part of that one hit on Jimmy Graham back when we played in New Orleans. Like, Jimmy Graham was right by the end zone. Ish and some other dude like pinned him up, knocked the ball away from him before he got into the end zone. And they had that poster up. But I've been a fan of Ish, man. He's a ninja. Like, real talk. He always plays with that drive, that hunger to succeed. I'm a big fan of that guy. So I feel comfortable with him and KZ. He's proved that he has the talent to do it. Obviously, they're not starters, but next man up, man. No excuse. Both of those guys are talented. They're in the NFL. They're on our team. The potential is there. It's their time to prove it, man. Step up. So obviously D is our biggest question mark right now. Offense has been playing lights out. Matt Ryan 5 for 5 in the red zone thanks to a penalty on the Saints defense. When Matt Ryan was kicking a field goal, you hit the center. Thanks. That's when Mohamed Sanu got his and then scored the 2 points right after that. Our offense has been clicking, man. I know the first video I made was like, is it Matt Ryan? Is it Sark? Right now, these guys are on the same page. And talking about same page, we turned the page to Cincinnati, and I live in Cincinnati right now, so it's kind of nuts. All the Bengals fans, I wore this to work. But yeah, man, Cincinnati, they're 2-1. They're coming off their first loss of the season to the Panthers. So I'm sure they're looking to bounce back. Obviously, like most teams in the NFL, you play different on the road. They play different on the road than they do at home. Their first 2 games were at home, I believe. And that was their first 2 wins. Their last game against the Panthers in Carolina, they got that L. But they're a good team, especially on their defense. They're a little bit banged up too, like everybody. Not as banged up as we are. But this has the potential to be another high-scoring game, bro. You talk about their wide receivers. AJ Green and Julio Jones always get that comparison. Obviously, we all know Julio's better. Obviously. John Ross was their first-round draft pick last year. The speedster. We got a speedster of our own in Calvin Ridley. Sanu used to play for the Bengals, so I'm sure there's something extra there. I hope he gets another shot at the wild bean. Throw some Wildcat in there for these boys. I like us at home. I'm the type of person, I'm optimistic, bro. I can pick us every single game, and I can tell you why. For me, what we need to do in this game to be successful is establish more of that run game. So a lot of the play action passes were working for Matty Ice last game. And obviously, we had 5 passing touchdowns, but a lot of the time that pressure is coming is because they're not respecting the run. They're teeing off on the pass. So you wanna develop that balance, and I think that's going to be really important against a good front. Like, the Bengals defense has always been one of their strengths. Their offense has been questionable. People don't know if Andy Dalton is a top-tier quarterback, but he can get the job done, man. Especially because miscommunication on our part, and that's obviously people filling in roles for people that are injured. We get tacked back Devontae's going to be out still. I believe Shelby's out. But it'll be a real interesting game. I'm picking the Falcons. I'm picking us, as always. Rise up, win, lose, or draw. Real talk. But overall, man, this is going to say a lot about us. I'm glad we're bringing out the old school jerseys because we need to get the old school Dirty Bird mindset and grind it out for this dub. Because there's a big difference between 2-2 and what the alternative will be. And I'm not even going to speak that into existence because we're going to be 2-2. We're going to be 500 after this Sunday. And then we go to another away game. We actually play the Steelers and then back at home for the Bucks. So we need to take care of business on Sunday. I think we will. I said in the rhyme up top, man, we could have been undefeated if we make a play in the end zone in Philly. If defense has that one stop, if we stop Drew Brees and his slow ass spin move, we're 3-0 right now. But right now we have an uphill battle, and that's fine. We can work out the kinks. Deion Jones will come back at some point during the year. Part of me has to say, if we have Deion Jones, if we have Rico, if we have Keanu, if we have any one of those three in for that last drive in overtime where they just kind of went down the field, we have the edge. We come away with that dub. But turnovers needs to be kind of on the front of our mind in terms of defense, creating turnovers, taking advantage of those opportunities, especially against Andy Dalton, because he's been known to throw a few of them to you. So those opportunities will be there. I'm sure they'll try to take some shots. But I believe we'll come out with this dub, man. I feel real confident. I have that mindset that it's do or die because the season can take a real sharp turn. We have all the talent in the world, but you got to win. A win is a win is a win. So even though these losses have come close and we've come close to winning, at the end of the day, we did not win. So I'm looking for us to bounce back in a major way, rocking the throwback jerseys against the Bengals, the Cincinnati Bengals. That's about it for this time, man. High energy, ready to take on the Bengals and get this dub. 2-2. Win, lose, or draw. Rise up.
I think it's time that you bow down. Cause we about to rise up. You know them birds gon' fly when you see us in the sky. And you hear the battle cry, rise up. Rise up.